For more than 20 years, this ranch had been my home, my livelihood, and my peace. Then a nearby development decided my land was the missing piece of their perfect community. Their representative arrived with a polished folder and an offer that sounded impressive. I listened politely, then gave him the answer he clearly didn't expect. No. He smiled as if my refusal was only temporary. You'll change your mind, he said before driving away down my private road. A few days later, I saw the same kind of SUV coming through my ranch again. This time, nobody had asked permission. Two men stepped out wearing official-looking uniforms and started acting like they had authority over my property. But something about them didn't look right. We're here on HOA business, the man announced. I looked around my ranch and asked one simple question. Who gave you permission to enter? I told them the road was private and asked them to leave. Instead of backing down, they argued that the HOA had rights over the road. I stopped arguing and started documenting everything. Every visit, every vehicle, and every conversation went into my records. But the visits didn't stop. Every few days, another SUV would appear on my road, like they were testing how far I would let them go. That evening, I stood at the gate and realized something. If they wouldn't respect a simple boundary, I needed a permanent one. I wasn't looking for a fight. I wanted a solution that was simple, legal, and impossible to misunderstand. So I focused on the entrance itself. The next morning, the materials arrived. Heavy steel bollards would protect the entrance without blocking legitimate access. I measured the entrance carefully and planned the spacing. Every detail mattered because I wanted the barrier to be safe, practical, and permanent. By afternoon, installation had begun. The old open entrance was slowly becoming a controlled private access point. The finished bollards formed a strong, clean boundary around the driveway. There was no confusion anymore about where the private road began. The timing couldn't have been better. Less than a week later, another SUV came down the road toward my new entrance. This time, they didn't drive straight through. They stopped, stared at the steel posts, and finally realized the rules had changed. The lead man stepped out and demanded to know why I had installed them. I simply explained that the posts protected my private entrance and authorized access remained open. This time, I raised my voice. I showed them the property records and calmly explained exactly where their authority ended. For the first time, they turned around. Their SUV disappeared down the road while I stood beside the boundary I had built. I thought that would be the end of it. Instead, the HOA decided to escalate the situation through official channels. They called a formal meeting and claimed the road was important to their development plans. I listened carefully and brought my documentation. Then I placed the property map on the table. The boundary lines made one thing very clear. Their neighborhood and my ranch were separate properties. The mood in the room changed quickly. For the first time, they weren't talking about what they wanted. They were looking at what the records actually said. Back home, the entrance remained exactly where it belonged. The steel bollards weren't there to start a war. They were there to make the boundary unmistakable. And that was the important part. Legitimate access still worked perfectly. The ranch remained functional while unwanted drive-through traffic was stopped. Days passed, then weeks. The random SUVs stopped appearing, and the ranch finally became quiet again. Looking back, I realized I never needed to outshout them. I just needed to know where my property ended and protect that boundary properly. They wanted me to sell because my land completed their vision. I refused, and in the end, my ranch remained exactly what it had always been, mine. Sometimes protecting your property doesn't require a fight. It requires standing firm and knowing your rights. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from.